What problems are troubling you? What's frustrating you, bothering you, worrying you? Want solutions? Want answers? Welcome to Here We Come to Save the Day, hosted by David Adelson. This podcast is dedicated to solving everyday and global problems in an uplifting, fun, enjoyable way. There is a solution to whatever's troubling you. Ask your questions and we'll do our best to give you practical, useful, workable solutions you can use starting today. Join us now with David's special guest experts who will share their own experiences, life lessons, and practical strategies for creating the life you long for. Start living your best life today, right now, with David Adelson and friends.
Welcome to another fun episode of Here We Come to Save the Day. I'm very excited to have my friend Adam Lewis Walker with us today, who's going to tell you how to expand your global reach. So tell us what you're going to share with people today, how you're going to save their day.
Yeah, so I mean, kind of everything I do is around that, expanding your reach and, getting heard. A lot of people I speak to want to get heard. I want to get heard. That's why, you've got a podcast. That's why I'm being a guest on your podcast. And that's ultimately why I've written books, done TEDx talks and podcasting. So, so if you're, to listen to this show, we're going to be talking about lots of aspects about getting your message heard. And also sometimes what's holding you back is not just the technology or the avenues, but also your confidence and your ability to awaken your alpha ultimately and amplify your mission, because maybe you are not thinking big enough or going for it enough through life. So, and I think it's relevant in this climate with, fear doing very well on some people, as it were, and people not doing so well with fear at the moment. So that's kind of what we're going to dig into, I think.
And when you say having a global reach, getting heard, what are the benefits of getting heard? Yeah.
So, and again, that's dependent on, so a lot of the people I deal with are, people like yourself are kind of, I'd class them as, messenger entrepreneurs, that they've got something really positive that they want to put out and they can help a lot of people. So when it comes to a certain point, the main thing limiting them in helping a lot of people is their global reach or not having as much exposure as they could do. So things like podcasts, that really is a global medium in terms of you can reach anyone. And, my podcasts are downloaded in over 140 countries. Things like TEDx talks on YouTube, they are, viewed all over the world and they really have a global reach. And same thing with books, translated in many languages. So I think it's, if you've got a very strong message that you want to have that impact in the world, the kind of expanding your reach and working on that is just something that's just going to amplify all and everything you do if you're doing good things to start with. So that's the first thing. You've got to be doing good things, because like anything, if you're not doing good things, this would just amplify not doing good things. So yes, I think that's the important thing to start with.
Good. Excuse me. So that's very good. And the next thing we want to do is, what's your authority? Why are you good at this? And I think you've already covered this. Your podcast being downloaded in over 100 countries. You've done a TEDx talk. You've been a bestselling author more than once. Top ranked broadcast network, which is Awaken Your Alpha, which is showing up in the background periodically for those who are on the YouTube.
And there we go, right on time.
You're a former teacher. You've been an international pole vaulter. I didn't particularly want to get that much into your story about the pole vaulting thing.
Oh yeah, I'm happy not to as well. Whatever works for you.
Well, my feeling is if we had more time, I'd love to hear it and share it, because I know, especially now, people are feeling like they're having to overcome something.
I was going to say, this is the beauty of what we're going to talk about, though. But if anyone has a slight interest in that, just type in YouTube, Adam Lewis Walker, Awaken Your Alpha, TED Talks there. So,
okay.
That will cover it in a very coherent and efficient way, and then we can dig into the meat here. Definitely.
Yeah, good. So what else do we want to say about you? You've done 400 episodes. You've done podcasts since 2014. Am I reading that right?
Yep. You're literally 6 years this month. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that one of the things that you do is you help people get TEDx talks. So you're obviously very good at getting global. So I just want people to understand, is there anything else that you feel you need to say to make people realize that, yes, you're worth listening to? I mean, I know it because I know you, but
No, I mean, putting all them things done, I mean, you can learn just as much, probably more in terms of stuff that hasn't gone well, or failures. And I think that's important for all these 400 people I've interviewed and more over the last 6 years. It's one thing I noticed and put in my book as well is their approach to failure, and also their amount of failure they've had. People always focus on, wow, they've done this one or two things that have absolutely smashed it, and like that's probably why they've what they're known for. But when you dig under that, they're like, wow, I've had a lot of failure. And we're like, what do you mean? They're like, well, this thing that we're talking about that's kind of got me to this point is one thing. I've tried so many things, or it's evolved so much, and I didn't dwell on these failures. And in times like this, they probably try 5 or 6 things, and it's not just they're just chucking all these things out. If it doesn't work, they don't dwell on it. They adapt, they adjust. They're not married to that idea, and they maybe just put it to the side if they can have that awareness and move on to something that may work, or just modify things. And the Awaken Your Alpha podcast, when that started, it's evolved a long way, and it looks different now, and it's currently in the evolution into a podcast network, which is another evolution. And at no point when I started that did I think it would go that way. So it's important to just not be stuck in your ways, but in other aspects, stick to your guns in terms of your resilience and your mindset, and moving forwards to the kind of the where you want to go in life.
Good. So thank you for that. And I think, again, we have the longer bio on the website, which tells, in more detail everything that you've done. But I think we've covered that enough. And I want to address something that you touched on already, and that is fear. And I think I think a lot of people are starting to realize that they're important, and starting to realize that somebody might want to listen to them. And I think that's one of the things that's coming out of this incubator stage we're all having, we've all been forced to because of this, virus that's been going on, this pandemic. But I know you think this, I know this to be true. There's nothing stopping you, especially as, an entrepreneur or someone with a mission. There's nothing stopping anyone listening from having a global reach now, regardless of, and maybe especially because of, the current world situation. So the first thing I think I'd like you to address or talk about is, what does it take for them to get the gumption to go ahead and move forward, to get over whatever it is that might be holding them back?
Yeah, and I love the way you sort of phrased it and talking about the fear thing, because I phrase it as the number one destructive emotion. It's that the first thing is acknowledging that's going to be your biggest, even with all that's going on now and like trying to do things. The biggest hindrance is not going to be all these things that are on the news. It's going to be you and your fear, and you're just that procrastination and kind of feeding into that. I mean, just for example, all the things we talked about, kind of listed at the start in terms of book publishing, podcasting, and doing a TEDx talk. Currently, the situation affects them zero, because if you're looking to do a TEDx talk, in terms of the timeline, you wouldn't be any of my clients. Then we're looking for events at the end of the year. And as my knowledge is at this point, they are not currently cancelled at the end of the year. So that doesn't affect anyone there. If you're publishing a book, apart from if you're going around or plan to go on a world tour like now, in terms of writing a book, bringing it all together and kind of working towards publishing, that doesn't affect you now. In fact, if some of you are pinned at home and you have time to kind of think about these things and get some serious work done, creative work done again. And then podcasting, one of the things that initially drew me to it was I knew I was going to move to the middle of nowhere in the wilderness from quite an urban area. So those things, all three of them are predominantly about improving and getting that global reach and just amplifying your message and your mission. So if you've been focusing on other things, but you think, yes, this is beneficial or could be beneficial to me now, you might not have planned it, but you think, actually, for the next few months, I'm going to focus on expanding my reach through mediums that, are not affected by the global situation. So, I mean, it's just, or you can focus on the things you can't do and whine about those, but it's ultimately a decision is the first thing.
So I like that. And one of the things that I think, some of the things that hold people back is a fear of what will people think of me. And there is a big difference between, and I think that there's a lot of people who are trying to support people now, which is not, I don't think there's a lot of people aggressively out there trying to be trolls on the different social media. So I think in some ways, I don't have to stand on, in fact, I can't stand on a stage right now, but I could do a free 5-minute Facebook Live, or I could do a YouTube thing now, and I can put it out there with trepidation, and I can always delete it. But right now, because of the situation, now's a good time to stick your foot in the water.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
And nobody's going to laugh you off the stage. If you're afraid to come forward, if you've been afraid to come forward, first of all, I think some people are just starting to realize that they do have, whether we want to call it a purpose or a mission or whatever, I think people are starting to realize that they have something to offer that their job was a distraction to. And now that they're not doing their daily job, they're thinking, wait, I could do this.
Yeah.
So now what we're encouraging, Adam and I are encouraging you to do is do something, just some action. You can always, anything you can put online within reason, you can delete. Depends on where you put it,
Yeah.
but you can send it. I just had a friend who she does I don't know if you want to call it a one-woman show. She just does this thing that she would do with friends or family, maybe half a dozen people would be over, and she did it. Well, she just decided that, and this was a great situation, she offered it online for free.
Mm-hmm.
And she got 129 people, if I'm remembering the numbers, to register for it, and 89 actually showed up. But I think several, like my wife and I watched it on one computer, even though we had registered separately. So she got 80 people to see her do this thing and got a lot of feedback at no risk, no having to fear of.
Well, it's definitely opened people's minds up to a lot of stuff. It's not seemed particularly weird to do stuff online for like loads of different generations, and people are like, oh, have you heard about this thing called Zoom? And I'm like, yeah, I've been doing interviews on it for 6 years. So, but it's becoming like common terminology, and people who you would never thought would be open to it, kind of out of forced necessity, have tested things, and they're like, oh, this is brilliant. Now, when this all settles down and goes back to normal, there's going to be a new normal, because people are, it's like you can't unsee certain things. So, people are going to go back to their lives, and obviously the whole world's going to be slightly different anyway, but then people's behaviors and patterns, and I'm like, oh, well, I did manage to cope with not doing what I thought I had to do all the time, and just, how people have adjusted. And I found that, little things like this Christmas, my parents came over. So I was working hard to get my home gym really kitted out and finished before they got here, because I wanted to, instead of going to the gym while they're here, I wanted to work out with my dad in our home gym. And then when he left, this wasn't my plan. I never went back to the actual gym, because I found that my home gym, because I put that effort in and intention on it, was better than the actual gym, and I enjoyed. And I'm not tied to a specific format or tool. So the fact that my objective was to work out and enjoy myself and keep fit and healthy. And I found by, doing that and going all in when my dad was here, when he left, I continued to go to the gym here at home. And then I assumed I was going back. And then I'm like, I don't want to go back. I'm getting better workouts. It's more efficient with my time. I'll go back soon, man. I just never went. And obviously, the fact that I can't go back to the gym now is not an issue. But I mean, it's that exposure that people are going to get, and then they're not going to go back to their usual way of life, is for a lot of people.
Good. So thank you. And I think that's a great example of how things are going to change. I think a lot of people will be doing things different. So let's move forward. Let's say somebody has a vision of what they want to do. Maybe this is coming into vision. I do want to give a little shout out to, for people who are just discovering their vision and want to make sure they're on target, that the arrow is going to hit the target. We do have a free quiz to help you. TakeThisQuizNow.com. It takes you just a few minutes. And then we have some free follow-up that'll help you, focus in and figure out what it is, what your message is, what you want to be doing. But let's assume someone knows what they want to be doing. And let's assume now they've got the courage and they're ready to click the mouse or turn on the camera or whatever it is and do something or post something or write something. What do you encourage people to do as the baby steps or first steps? If they want a global reach, where do you start? What would you recommend first?
Yeah. I would start with being very clear on what you want, and that's why I feel a lot of people are not really pushing it realistically in terms of this global reach thing, because like you say, putting yourself out there is scary. And if you're not 100% confident in and done the work that you are like, this is me, this is my message, it's not going to change in a year. It's not going to change, the core of it in like 5 years or 10 years. You'd be more willing to, and you're very confident that it has a lot of value. You're more confident to put it out there in any format you can, kind of as much exposure. So a lot of times, if you find yourself kind of pulling yourself back and not going for certain scenarios, or even if you had an opportunity, would you take it? Because maybe you think this is a good idea, or you think it's worth sharing, you're just not, you maybe need to do a little bit more work. So, I mean, there's lots of exercises you can do, but it ultimately comes to just, to a certain extent, a bit broad, but sorting out your life and making sure you are, not just doing a job, but actually following your purpose and something, some work that you find very fulfilling and has a positive impact. Then that's something that, why wouldn't you want to share that out? Whereas if you feel a bit conflicted and a bit icky when you want to try and share that message, then that's an issue, because why would you want to share that if it makes you feel like that in any way, shape or form? And I'm sure we've all been there where something is going on that, yeah, if you're honest, you probably wouldn't want to share this to, friends and family members, because there's something in there that doesn't align with you and your values, or just, where you see yourself going in the future. This may not be the time to amplify that message, because that's not the one. So, or that mission. So, but I think once you've really done the work to kind of like, oh, this is it, this is the path, then go all in. And that's when you could do as many interviews as you want, or, have your own show and it's just coming out of you, because it's not forced, it's authentic. You've done the work that this is what you're all about. So, yeah, that would be my first sort of thoughts.
Yeah. So good. So, and what, I mean, I know one of the things that our friend Steve Alsher has a book out called, a bestseller called What Is Your What, which is all about, and I, to tell you the truth, I know him well, but I don't know the book, but I know a little bit about, I know a little bit that what it's for is to help you get in line like that. Again, our Take This Quiz Now is to help you do that.
This book is useful on that as well.
Okay, no, hold it up longer. Let's, because again, not everybody's watching the video. So this is Adam's book, which is Awaken Your Alpha. Where we'll have a link about where you can get this, but it's obviously on Amazon. Is it an Audible book as well, or?
It's not yet. And in terms of amplifying your message, naughty, it should be. And yeah, that's that minimum 2 days where I need to dedicate that time to, record that, because I'm recording it myself. It's just it always gets pushed in terms of the priorities. So that's never going to get done unless I push it up the priorities. So yeah, that is on the list, and I'm writing the next book, and I can't have that. I cannot have another book out without because I know a lot of people clearly like audio. So yeah, it's not available on audio yet.
Okay, well, I'm going to encourage you to do that, because I have heard Aziz talk about how much. I don't know if you know him, but
yeah, I interviewed him. I know, and I think he might have mentioned it to me. I know. I'm just. Man, it's.
Do you realize the dollar figures that you?
Oh yeah. But luckily, as we just talked about, I'm not motivated by the almighty dollar as the core thing. But yes, the fact that more people would listen to and hear that message, and get bigger reach by me just recording the audio of that. Yeah, that does nag at me. So that is it's on the list, and as I say, it's.
When you get it done, let us know. We'll put it in the show notes too.
Thank you.
So,
but again, the problem with that is I've never set a deadline. So it's on the list. And I suppose that for anyone who's got things on their list, they're just generally on your list. Unless you make that a priority or put a deadline. I'm a strong believer in deadlines. Like if I said that audio book would be out, and I know the rough timing from the publisher of when they need it. If I said that audio would be out by August. It would be out by August, but I'm not saying that. But you know what I mean? So yeah,
Adam, I'm going to encourage you to say that.
I need to set a deadline because it's, you know, I have not set that deadline. So if I was, we could do this now then, right?
Yeah, because the question I have is
September.
That's what I got too.
You call me out on that because it's recorded here. September. Oh damn.
And the reason I was hoping we could do this is because this is what our audiences go. This is what people who are, you know, they're starting to feel they have a message. They're starting to feel they need to do stuff. And God, there's so many priorities. And we set our priorities. We set them. And you're exactly right. Until we decide to, you know, and we're only putting our foot down to ourselves. We're deciding that this is something, you know, and however you motivate it. I look at it like I know people who would benefit from that book. I absolutely know with absolute certainty. But I also know they don't read. Not because, but they have their
I've
exercise.
come up to a lot of people, who've said, "Oh, I really want to," you know, they literally said, "I really want to read your book," and they're like, "Is it available on Audible?" And I'm like, "Not at this point." And they're like, "Oh, let me know when it is." You know, I've had a lot of that. Yeah, and that is painful to me because that is someone in terms of reach that I've not reached because they are literally, they've told me they're waiting.
Good. And that pain is exactly what I want to hit for people. If you feel something like we're talking about, the audience that we're reaching, that we hope are listening to this, this is people who you need to, it's not about you. It's not about how you feel about this. It's about the ideally hundreds of thousands, and in many cases, millions of people whose lives would be changed if they knew what you knew, if they could do something, if you could show them something. And when we allowed that, then we start realizing, you know, how do we determine our priorities? Well, you know, I've got my kids, I've got my wife, I've got, you know, we need to be off in time to get to dinner. We need to, you know, I need to do my workout. I've got my routine and stuff. But, you know, if we're looking for a global reach, which is what we're talking about, we're looking to make an impact in the world. And if we're looking to make an impact in the world, it means we have something valuable that we feel will benefit hundreds, tens of thousands, hundreds of whatever we feel. And why would we want to end whenever we end?
Yeah. Maybe why would you want to limit it? Yeah. And we're talking about all these different formats, and the audiobook is just another format. You know, it's a different format. The content is the same as the book, you know, like, you know, whether it's Kindle or paperback, and then you got the podcast, and you got the TEDx talk, then, you know, so there's all these different formats of you know, a core message, or at least a philosophy, and an approach to life. And so once you got that nailed, and whatever that is for you, or like you say, what value you're trying to put out into the world, just there's different tools out there. It's just about finding the ones that fit for you and prioritizing that first. Don't try and do all these things at once. If you tried to launch a podcast, write a book, and chase after a TEDx in the same period, that'd be a nightmare. And you probably wouldn't achieve hardly any of them, or you'd achieve them all badly. But again, some of them have gatekeepers. So yeah, you could probably publish a bad book. You could publish a bad podcast, but you wouldn't even get past the TEDx organizer because you haven't put the dedicated focus on that one thing, and that will show up, and you probably wouldn't land that one.
Good. I'm so excited and glad that you brought that up, because here's the thing. Once you feel, you know, and maybe this is a great first step, once you feel that you've got something, write it down, whether that means on the computer and you record it by talking it out, or whether, because you can talk it out and then there are websites that will transcribe for you, and some do really high end, and you can get it back, and then you can get an editor to do it. But you want to be very clear, and you touched on this earlier, Adam, this idea of what's the message? What is the point that I'm offering people? What is the revolutionary idea? What is it that I'm bringing to the table that truthfully, in many cases, no one else can bring, or maybe half a dozen people? You know, there was a cartoon book we had when we were kids. It was my parents' book. It was called Supposing. And it was just, you know, like a bunch of one-page full cartoons about this little kid who's, I don't know, 8, 10, 12 years old. And he's having his fantasies, what, you know, basically supposing, what if. Yeah. And one of them is, you know, supposing I'm the only person in the world that knows the answer to this question. and this is in the 60s or 70s when it came out, and he said, I'm on this global TV show. The whole world is watching. And when they asked me the question, instead of answering, I just burped. So little kid fantasies, but we get this idea of, if I don't do this, if I don't step up, am I willing to, do I want that on my resume when I go before?
Yeah, but that's it. Yeah, that people are always so concerned about, what will people think? And do I want that? And that resume thing. And the CV or the resume, I remember them days when I was bothered about that more, when I was in the traditional job, because, it does stay on, you're following it, you're always updating it. And you're thinking about, if I did this thing for 6 months or a year, how will that look down the line if I'm going to try and do other things? And luckily, I have a kind of resume now that you read it out at the start. But in terms of my CV, for a traditional job, that would be a mess now. It'd be an absolute mess. But luckily, I don't care about that because it's not important to me. But I think that's the other thing, don't worry about what society is expecting you to worry about. If you don't care about it, then, acknowledge you don't care about that. There's other things that you really do care about that the average person or the society wouldn't expect that you'd care about, whether that's tiddlywinks or, whatever it is. And touching on your thing in terms of, I do think successful people are very, they take the time to do the work in terms of the thought process, but they're also very quick to action and implementation, whether it is just that small thing of writing it down. And I encourage people to even take it to that next level in terms of not wasting your time. If you have sort of that idea that is kind of, you think this could have legs, buy a domain name that day. And my point on this is there's a little threshold. It's so minor. If you go to buy that domain name for like $11 and there's resistance and you think, realistically, if you can't commit $10 to it and then come back tomorrow and think, actually, was that a good idea? Like, sleep on it. If you, on that day when your initial spark and you're like, I've written it down and this is the one. And then you're going to think, well, in today's day and age, there'd probably be a website, associated down the line. If you can't commit $10 to even put a pin in that, to then you come back to it tomorrow or the next day, then just cross it off your list. It's not worth $10 to you. So I found that's a good one because, I would jump on like a GoDaddy or something like that. You put a few things in, then I'm like, am I going to do anything with this really? And you like ranked up with other things you've got going on, your priorities that we spoke about, and you're like, no, I'm not. It's a cool, it's a fun idea or whatever. I like being creative, but this isn't the one to pull time away from your other things that you're doing, because you can do anything, you just can't do everything, especially at the same time.
Good. So, and that's a good thing. We're coming up with, things that what's going to stop you, and again, a $10. If you're not willing to commit $10, you need to really rethink about whether you do have something.
What is that idea or that tweak on that you think, well, I'd invest $100 or I'd invest $1,000, because then you're like, you might be onto something.
Yeah. I think it's good because we want to get for the people that are past that. Let's assume for the conversation moving forward that this is a guy who has said, to everything that we've said so far, who said, yes, I really think there is something. Yes, I'm willing to get my feet wet. Yes, I'm willing to write down at least an outline of what it is that I think is valuable. Let's assume that they've said, I am willing to make a commitment. I don't want it to show up that I omitted this in my life. I don't want to get to the end of my life and have a regret that I knew something that I went on the worldwide TV show and instead of answering it, I just burped. I don't want to be that guy. Let's assume that $10, let's assume that they go, you know what, I'm so sure of this, I'm going to get 5 variations of the domain name.
Oh, that's the next level.
Just in case, and that's $50. And let's assume that they're game with all of that so far.
I don't get sucked into that on the first. I buy the domain name, just the .com, and then because you get them up, would you like to have .this or .that for $2 extra? I'm like, no. Like, until this has gone past the idea phase or even like the buying the domain phase, I'm not going to buy 10. And that only comes from experience because I have in the past, I did buy a load of variations like years ago and I didn't do anything with that. That's a good way to make someone some money that is pointless, So I like to, and again, it dilutes you because you've got too many options. I like to just, go clear. And it's all about the .com anyway. Everyone knows that.
Right. And let's assume the .com, but maybe you've got a weird spelling and they spell
Yes,
different
yeah.
in England.
Don't have a
Then
weird spelling, or try not to. Yeah.
Yeah. But then what you want to do is you want to buy the other one and do a redirect. So I'm done everything we've said so far, and I'm buying the 5 weird spellings, not even the .net, .org. I'm just buying
what that does as well, it ties you to something.
Yes,
so again,
yeah.
So with that tying as well, sometimes I suppose you got to do that at the right time as well. And that makes you re-question, even if it's like you go to buy it and you think, this ain't it. Then you go back to your pad and you think it out and you ask some critical questions, or you speak to someone if you've got a coach, a mentor, or just a friend that you bounce these ideas off. And I think what attracts me to stuff like the whole sort of ethos behind like ideas worth sharing and spreading, and the whole TED kind of culture and theme, and why they've done so well, is because it's, what is your unique idea worth sharing? And that's not fixed to a TED talk. If you've got a unique idea worth sharing, like you said, you should have a unique approach to your business, your life. That again, I think that's important. And if you honestly look at it and think, actually, that's not unique, like that's been done before, or that's, then do a little bit more work, because everyone's can be, unique in their own sort of way, their own sort of spin on how they approach it, and just within that. And so once you've done the work to kind of ask yourself these questions, and then maybe bounce it off someone, a willing friend, volunteer, or whoever it is, or paid coach, or, I offer idea clarity calls every Thursday. And, people come in thinking they're talking specifically about their ideas worth sharing for a TEDx talk, which they do. However, we talk about the reality of like being aligned. You don't want this is something that you're going to change your business in 5 years, 10 years, and go, actually, that talk I gave is not relevant. I don't believe that. This is going to be something that's like your core message, your idea, and unique idea worth sharing, that is kind of filters through everything. So then you have the freedom as well to do anything that aligns with your kind of your purpose, your vision, and your unique idea, because, you've got something that's not going to change, and it is truly aligned with who you are and where you're going and what you're doing. So I think that's important as well. And it's useful just to, you can't read the label of your own bottle. And also what you think is normal and standard may be very unique, but it's just from your perspective, it's normal to you, but it might not be to other people.
Yeah, there was, thank you for that. There was a woman who did do a TEDx, but I first found her on YouTube and watched several of her videos. And then I watched her TEDx talk, which I found out what she was really about. And she's from one of the Scandinavian countries. I think she's got a PhD, but I can't remember exactly. But she realized that her unique take on it was she messes things up. So her whole channel is about, today I'm going to try to build a robot that opens cans, or a robot that reads a newspaper.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that one. I know who you're talking about. Yep. Because it is quite a unique, approach, perspective, at least what she shared on the, the TEDx stage.
Right. And here is somebody who's, and it was a very funny thing that she did on, I don't remember.
Global reach. Like a random guy like me just sitting here, you talked about her, and I'm like, oh, I know who you're talking about. That's crazy that I just can't believe that I would know that, but that's the power of, a medium like that,
Exactly. And what her unique thing isn't that she's really smart and that she's an engineer and she's all of this. Her unique thing is not the thing that her unique thing is, and I try things all the time that don't work. And you could watch me try the things that don't work, and we have fun. Yep. And one of the first things that I saw was she really wanted a Tesla truck. So they got a Tesla and they converted it to a truck, and it took them 3 weeks or whatever. And she was gone for half of it, but they have a video of it. And then from there, I was like, that was pretty cool. And she said, this is what worked. This doesn't work. She had some friends help her. And then one of the things that she did was she really wanted to be an astronaut, and she figured out the size of what it would be if you were in a space capsule, and that was the size of her bathroom. And so she locked herself in the bathroom for 48 hours just to see if she could. And and she foamed the floor, so it was a bed. And then and the reason I'm bringing this up is just this idea of, you may be an expert in your field and you may think that what you know is a combination of everything that you've been taught, but there's something special that you can bring to it
Yeah.
that empowers the world to know it. Her whole thing was, and she just said, I do this and I make mistakes, and she's global reach.
But she's owning it. That's the thing. Like you say, she's owned it. To have the confidence to, just to go for it in that sense. And obviously people have questioned her, the organizers would have questioned her, like, what are you talking about? Are you sure about this? And she's clearly said, yeah, this is it. This is, and they're like, oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
We like
this. She goes into, she said, she has a whole bunch of, I'm going to build a robot that does X, Y, Z or whatever.
I think I saw one where I think it's like an alarm clock where it's either like slapping her on the head or something. Something was trying to wake her up. It was a robot, definitely.
Yeah. And they're all outrageous. And she's just having fun and just kind of tweaking and saying, well, what could we do? What would it look like? What would it work? And not taking so seriously the outcome, which is a huge lesson for humanity.
Yes.
It's a huge lesson. You look at what a lot of people want to throw their support behind, and the first thing they want to say is, has it been successful? Will it be successful? I don't want to spend any time on something that isn't. But when we're talking about helping people realize what their vision is, I took writing classes a lot in college. I have a degree in writing. And I can tell you that there's a lot of times that I write 3.5 pages or 2.5 chapters, and then I realize what I want this book to be about. Then I realize that this is the point, and you just throw out all those words, but you can't say they're wasted because they helped you get to that point. So, begin where you are, whatever it is. It may be that your first few forays out, we're all embarrassed. I'm sure when you listen to your very first podcast now,
I was thinking about it the other day. I really don't want to. But, I think I listened to it maybe, or some of it, like 3 years in, and that was painful enough. But now, wow. And I feel like I spoke to someone. I was talking to a professional speaker, and there's this point, at least in that game, and definitely I feel in this one, about 300 speeches in, you kind of, that was it. Yeah. You kind of go up another level, whether like consciously or not. And when we was talking about that concept, I felt around like 300 interviews. I felt like something, there was definitely a shift or a change in me personally, but it wasn't like I thought, 300 episodes, right, time to step it up. It's just, that evolution from, I'm sure I thought I was great at 200 episodes, and, but it's interesting. There's a certain level to things when certain things get to that tipping point, or you click, or, you're just living and breathing it, and it takes it all to another level, which is very hard to get to that kind of high level if you are just, punching a pay clock or not doing the work to kind of do something that really kind of aligns with you and that you're willing and want to share with the world. So, it's, that first, I was thinking about that because I'm going to, YouTube obviously is another medium to amplify your message. And so I'm going to be leveraging that tool, over the rest of this year, which I haven't really used that to its full capacity at all. And part of that may be putting out some of the archive interviews I've got, videos, which would include some of the very early ones. And that's when I was thinking, oh my goodness, that's going to be like a slap in the face to watch them. But also the fact that some of them may be, I wouldn't say so awful, but maybe room for improvement will probably be inspiring for someone, because they'll be like, wow, check out how bad that was.
No, I get that, because it's one of the things, a lot of people who meet us today and they see the level of professional or whatever, they're like, well, yeah, this is easy for you. And they're like, no, you don't get it. You didn't see that. You weren't there for. You didn't see me, trip on stage or throw up before I went on stage or whatever the heck it was, in the case of you haven't read the first scrap writings that I wrote or the first videos that I did or whatever. So I know we need to wrap up. I know you have an engagement coming up, and
family dinner time. I'm trying. It's gone quiet up there. They might have been eating now. If there's not people running around, it means they're probably eating. But
I don't know. They're ahead of the time. But I really want to thank you for being on the show. I know you do your clarity calls. I know we'll have some links in the show notes below, but tell people how they can take advantage of you. And then I want to do a wrap up of what we've covered and what a next step for people would be. So
Cool. Yeah. I mean, just connect. I mean, if any of this interests you, like we mentioned before, like go and listen to the TEDx talk. You know, that kind of, as I said, that is kind of my whole philosophy, regardless of kind of what I'm doing. That is something I really believe in, and my kind of approach to things. And then the Adam Lewis Walker, on social media, please do connect. Instagram's, a good one that can lead to all different things in terms of links and stuff. I'm reasonably active on there. And just reach out. But the biggest compliment you can ever pay an author or a podcaster, if you listen or read or watch any of the stuff, is a simple little one-line review quote. And I mean, not quote, just review of, and an honest review, if positive review, I should say. So, if you think it's useless, just click off it. I wouldn't want you to waste your time in kind of putting that stuff out there. Like, if it's not for you, brilliant. Go and find something that is for you. But if you enjoyed it or something struck home with you, leave a review for the podcast or the TEDx talk, and share it out. That's the best compliment I can ever have. But just reach out to me if you've got any questions. And in terms of specifically the TEDx, there's an obvious route in terms of listen to the podcast. There's a podcast around that as well. And and book in to speak with me if that's something that aligns with you.
do you have, do they have a place to go? Do you want to send them to?
Yeah, talkaccelerator.com.
Good.
Yep.
Okay.
And on the podcast, it's all there, yeah. And they can book in there. Access to my calendar there. I mean, I could give my calendar details out now, but they can get it through there. And just if you can't find anything, just let me know. But it's all there, and the information's there. But yeah, I don't mind actually. Calendly.com/Adam Lewis Walker. That you can cut out the middleman. That would take you straight to my calendar, and then there's different options. But the TalkX clarity calls are there.
Very good. So I want to thank you for your time. I know we're getting close to your thing, but I just want to do a wrap up. It was Tom Singer who talked about who's a professional speaker, and he had for a long time been wanting to do. Professional speaker means he gets paid to go to companies and do all.
Yeah, and that's his his primary sole source of income, because there's so many people who are speakers, and I'd put myself in one of them kind of brackets because I'm an author and a podcaster. They are way up there, and if you had to say, right, choose, it probably wouldn't be like public speaking like that. I would choose podcasting and publishing, and then if you had to make me choose between that, that'd be a tough one, but
yeah. And so he does this, and then he had this idea that he wanted to try stand-up comedy, and so he started doing free going when they have open mic things. And he had heard about the 300 thing, and I think when we saw him a month or so ago, he was up to 190 something. It said how many he had done, but I loved this idea, and the reason I'm bringing it up now is if at 300 is where we get good, or if it's, page 300 of our book, or if it's the 15th show that we do, or the whatever, right now, start where you are. I know so many people who I will go on stage when I can be sure I get a standing ovation at the end, but you can never get to the standing ovation if you don't actually go.
Well, I think there's zero value or point in comparing yourself if you're starting in that field to someone like a Tony Robbins, or if we're talking about speaking, someone like an Eric Thomas, E.T. the hip hop preacher. They are people who've done 300 and then some, and are extremely talented, like that 1% of the people who've done 300 or more. And then if you're going to compare yourself to someone that far down the journey in that arena to you who's just starting out, that's a recipe to be unmotivated, and just fulfillment's not going to be there. So just don't compare yourself generally to other people, but especially to someone who's way down or further down the journey in that particular arena, because it's just no value in that. Compare yourself to someone else who's just starting, and then that would make slightly more sense, but still they're going to be a different person. So just do your thing.
Yeah, excellent. And so I just to do a recap of the show. I think the first thing we want to encourage people is to know what it is about you that's unique, know what it is that your message is, and really hone in on that. And then, and that's big. That's a big part of, because, well begun is half done. When you know what you want to say, I think it'll be easier to determine where you want to go to promote this to get a global reach. We've talked about a number of places where one can get started and what the vision one can have. Obviously, you can get started on Facebook Live, on
Yeah.
Instagram, on Twitter, even one.
Yeah, and I do genuinely believe that the problem with a lot of people who are maybe struggling in that concept we talked about, everyone has some extreme quality within them. Say you've got a load of stories or a load of great ideas, how can anyone deal with that? Having 10 great ideas is no good in terms of in terms of getting your message and your reach out there. Okay, out of them 10, do the work, however long that takes you, to narrow that down to one clear concept, because then you can articulate that, you can communicate that, and then that has more power. Whereas if that one is buried in 10 or 20 or 30 stories or ideas, it's very sporadic who gets exposed to that, or when that comes out. If you're not aware that that is the goal, that is what you're all about, that is your unique, your special source, and that's the one that's going to have an impact in the world.
Yeah, and once you get that one, it may be that you do come out with the number 2 or number 3, but you've already built an audience. But it may be that number 1 just takes you for the rest of your life, and maybe that important. And it may be that, it's a big world out there for looking for global reach. Adam, I want to thank you so much for your time. I think so highly of you. I've always enjoyed our talks together. I enjoyed being on your show. I encourage people to read your book. I encourage you to let me know the minute, because I'm counting it'll be out in September. So this is a done deal. This is September.
Yeah, it is. It is. So, but accountability is important. Take these opportunities, because I'm pretty confident it wouldn't have been done by September. The reality of how this is, that's all that's going on, but it will be now, because that's another thing is when you make them agreements with yourself, it's important to stick to them, because when you don't, what other things are you letting slide and slip in your life till tomorrow? So it's important to set realistic. That's why I didn't say August. Set realistic ones that you agree with. Don't let other people set certain things on you that you're not really bought into. You got to buy into it as well. So thanks for that as well. And I'm happy that my audiobook will be out by September now. Just got to do the work.
We're very excited. I can't wait to put it on a page and to let our people know to support you in any way we can. I appreciate what you're doing in the world. It's such a good thing. You have such an important message. I'd love your global reach to double and triple and quadruple in the next.
It's coming. It's coming.
Months.
The podcast is just going on to AM/FM radio stations across the US and on Roku TV. So it's ramping up in terms of a network, and so that's all I'm focused on now is in terms of literally expanding that reach. So because it's taking a while to get to this point, but I'm excited. So this is really relevant conversation we had today. So thank you.
So if you were going to, knowing what you are now and where you are now, if you were going to say something to this guy who's just considering whether he should do a podcast or not of you way back when, what are you going to tell yourself?
It wouldn't be go for it. It'd be like, okay, pump the brakes. Do you really want to do this? Like get very clear on why you're doing this. And, in some ways just, be more intentional in terms of why you're doing it. And it's more strategic, and just tighten up a little bit, and just be very, clear of what it's going to take it to the level that, is worth doing. But that said, there is always a little bit of value to, I'm a fan of, like I say, setting deadlines, not knowing all the details intentionally, because if you knew all it entailed, you probably might not do it, because anything worth doing is a lot of work generally. And that has been the journey with the podcast. But I've enjoyed the ride. So it's a lot of work to get to this point, but so I would say buckle up. You got a lot of work to do, dude.
What was it that artist that said I could do a painting in 20 minutes, but it took me 20 years to be able to do it in 20 minutes?
That's what I feel like I've got to that point, and thank goodness now I'm there, because it's there's hacks or ways you can be more efficient, but there's generally no shortcuts to success in any real endeavor. You may get lucky early on, but that just means you're not mentally prepared so well for when adversity comes. Because you can. I get that there is sometimes rarer situations where you haven't done a whole lot and you get a huge amount of success. There's lots of cases of that, but then when things turn, as they do for all of us, you won't be prepared so well. So just enjoy the journey, and it's all learning experiences.
Would you tell yourself that it's worth it if you're going?
Yeah, and I would have got there I've got to this point definitely quicker, but there is also value in the, as I said, in the struggles and the time. It's like a fine wine. You need these. You can't say, oh, I've had these years of adversity, but they're only a few weeks, because then you haven't. So there's certain things that, you just got to go from yourself. You won't get the value out of you just saying, oh, can I pay X amount and can I skip that year so I will get to this point quicker? Someone else take on that adversity. So yeah, I would definitely, knowing what I know now, and that's how I help people, I would avoid some of the mistakes, probably make new ones, but also I would get to this point quicker. And that's really what coaching and consulting is. You shorten someone's success cycle and success curve. I feel like people generally will get there if they're committed to it. They may be just sort of moving along. And then, it's just a question of how quick do you want to get there, or how quick are you willing to get there in terms of what you need to sacrifice. And so there's tools that can help you. There's people that can help you. You
can help them.
Yeah, exactly. That's why, I'll speed things up and I'll say, see all this I did? Yeah, skip that bit.
Don't bother. Don't go there.
Skip year 2, skip year 3, maybe. Let's go to year 4. It's, definitely things, because that's another thing in terms of the TEDx format. I don't try and help people to think about, oh, how many TEDx's are you going to do and all this sort of stuff. You do it right the first time, and that generally would be it. There are people who do multiple TEDx's. I'm, confirmed to do another one, but that's a large part of that, if I'm honest, is because of, I didn't know then what I know now. It's like, 4 years? And also because I've, evolved in that arena, at least, there's aspects that, of the original that I'm like, man, it's starting to get a little bit cringeworthy. Not too bad, because I'm very happy with it, but also I'm like, I would do this differently. But that is, I'm very happy with that for 2016. But for 2020, I've got a new message as well. And coming back to that unique idea worth sharing. And I want to avoid people having that talk and then thinking they want to do another one. Because I've heard some horror stories where people have, really it's gone wrong, or they didn't put the right work in. And and you don't want to be in that situation. And, there's many things you can learn from my mistakes as well as others.
Thank you again. I need to do a quick shout out, peaceandharmonydownload.com for greater peace and harmony in your life. Check it out. It's free. You don't even need to opt in. Adam, thank you. I've always enjoyed every time we've talked. I enjoyed this immensely. I think it would be of great value to people. I encourage people to read your book, to check out your podcast, to associate you in whatever way they feel to. And I know that you can very clearly help them if they want to choose to work with you one-on-one to get their message and to become global. Yeah. So thank you for your time.
No worries. And on that note, I also, the Talk Accelerator is a small group program, because I know working one-on-one with, a lot of coaches or any coaches can be, cost prohibitive for a lot of people. So and that's another thing that aligns nice with me. If you've got zero money, go and listen to the Talk Accelerator podcast. You will get a huge amount of tools and resources and ideas. And then, we have the group program. And then obviously you can work one-to-one with me, which is not everyone's cup of tea, because it will get you there quick. But then I'll be asking you some tough questions.
Tough questions can be helpful. Thank you again. You have a great one. Enjoy your dinner. Apologize to your wife for me.
That's fine. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to another helpful, fun, and life-changing episode of Here We Come to Save the Day with David Adelson. To access the show notes and additional resources, go to herewecometosavetheday.com. If you've enjoyed the show and find it helpful and fun, please leave us a review and share with a friend. Tell us issues troubling you or questions you have. We're here to help you. That's what Here We Come to Save the Day is all about. Till next time.